Presiding Officer. There's at least one civil servant is due some congratulations from us all. Finding Can Do out of capable, ambitious, networked demand and opportunities is a pretty neat way of capturing the whole thing. Working computers, as I have for many, many decades, we used to do this all the time, and it used to be the greatest fun we had. Now, I want to talk about a rather eclectic subject, but it is one that is utterly relevant to the topic of today's debate, and it is about one of the threats that comes from one of the bills that is being brought forward in the Queen's speech last week. I specifically refer to the Investigatory Powers Bill, which the Tory government proposes. And within that, the key proposal is a requirement for a backdoor in software that would enable the security services to read the content of private messages protected by encryption. Now, that sounds all very geekish, and in many ways it actually is. But it really does matter. Now, let me acknowledge that, of course, terrorism is a very important part of the threats to business throughout the world and to people's lives across the world, and we need to respond to that in an appropriate way. But if we are going to continue to be, as the motion says, a can-do place for business, the core of the proposal in the Investigatory Powers Bill simply can't proceed. Let me just make a few points. If you've got to protect messages, and I'll talk about the kind of messages we need to protect, then opening up the software that protects messages so that some people have privileged access to read it is going to create a whole series of difficulties. First of all, the lawbreakers simply won't use software that has backdoors. They'll write their own, so it won't actually particularly affect those who choose to break the law and conceal the content of the messages. It will affect those who are obeying the law. Those with evil intent will be unaffected. But secondly, more critically, it will open up all our financial transactions to open scrutiny and potentially interference, because if you've got a way in, that way in will become a way in for lots of people. Now, why does that matter for Scotland and entrepreneurs in Scotland? Well, it does matter, and it matters differentially, because we are a leading source of innovative software for the financial sector. And Margaret McDougall has just referred to innovative software in her remarks. Well, that kind of software in future, under that kind of regime that's proposed to be introduced, might not be produced here. We have a significant interest in producing secure banking software, but if it can't be developed here, then it will be developed elsewhere. We had reference to Skyscanner, and Skyscanner depends for the integrity of the transactions between it and customers worldwide, not just on that little padlock that appears in the top line of your browser. Behind that is software that protects the integrity of communication between Skyscanner and customers. The opening up through this bill proposed by the Tories in the Queen's speech will damage the integrity of that protection. And this isn't just theoretical. Already in the United States, Phil Zimmerman, the creator of the world's most widely used email protection system, which is called Pretty Good Privacy, otherwise known as PGP, has already started to move his company to Switzerland because the United States government is doing something similar. And if legislation proceeds in this way, high-tech, high-value contributors to our being what the motion refers to as entrepreneurial and innovative nation will simply depart. And it's quite easy to do, because these are not people with fixed assets here, big factories. The intellectual skills in their people are what can move, and they can move tomorrow without any substantial difficulty. Now, you have to accept, too, that once you create a backdoor, the knowledge of the backdoor is supposed to be to the security services, but to lots of people in the security services, inevitably will leak. The most secure software is always open source software, where everyone can look at the algorithm and improve it. The secrecy is in the key, a unique piece of information held by a single person. The operation and algorithms of backdoors will inevitably be bypassable. If they're thought to be secret, they'll soon be disclosed. Now, none of this is actually new. Napoleon's Peninsular War campaign was undermined by Wellington's cryptologist George Scoville. He was able to read the intercepted and encrypted orders to the French troops rapidly and routinely. And of course, Napoleon lost the war because that was able to happen. And each generation moves on to new methods of protecting information. In World War I, the Cherokees and the Choctaw Indian tribes were used over the radio because nobody could understand what their languages said. And in the Second World War, the Navajo, the Lakato, the Miskawi, and the Comanche, and even Basques were used to protect information. So the need to protect information in sensitive environments is nothing new whatsoever. Now, the UK lost out a key opportunity. We've all got a little token that we use for accessing the Parliament's websites and facilities, and it's got the letters RSA on it that we use, and that's Rivest, Shamir, and Edelman, American mathematicians who developed a very secure way of communicating. But of course, 30 years ago, this piece of paper, a single sheet of A4, was a secret document. Only came to light 10 years ago, which shows that nearly 10 years before Rivest, Shamir and Edelman developed the system, GCHQ and its predecessors were already developing it. We lost the commercial opportunity in the UK, and now the USA control things. It's important that innovation is not stifled by legislators simply not understanding the importance of and manners of working that there are for technology. Now, if we were to proceed with the proposal in the Queen's speech, we will no longer be as secure in our banking and communication as we currently are. And that is a huge risk. Migration of services will inevitably take place, as is already beginning to happen in the United States. It will damage a key sector of the economy of the UK as a whole, but differentially for Scotland, it's even more important. So I hope that the Minister, the Cabinet Secretary, will think about this, and his officials will think about this, that we'll be able to work, all the parties here with colleagues at Westminster, to make sure that this does not happen. I'm disappointed the Liberals are not with us today, because I know that they are sensitive to this and will be on side for helping oppose this particular so-called innovation to protect us from terrorism. It won't do that, but it will damage business if it goes ahead in the form proposed, and I hope that we will all oppose it. Presiding Officer.